Hi, my name is Daryl McRae. I'm the product manager for Solace's event management product, PubSub Plus Event Portal. For those of you who may not be familiar with Event Portal, it's a unique product in the market because it's a tool that gives enterprise architects and developers a single place to design, discover, visualize, and catalog event-driven architectures. In this demo, I'm going to focus on the design portion. I'll show you how to use a new set of capabilities that we're delivering to model EDAs. Among other benefits, these new features help you determine and immediately flag the downstream impacts to your runtime systems when you make changes to event topics or subscriptions in any of your associated applications. So this is the main Event Portal landing page. For those not familiar, the Event Portal consists of a designer, a catalog, and a discovery section. Like I said, we're going to focus on the design side aspects of the Event Portal in this demo, so I'm going to click and drill into the designer. Here I have two application domains, and for this demo we're going to focus on the sports application domain, which clearly has 4 applications and 4 events. So let's drill into that application domain. And in this application domain I have the 4 apps. The first app is a sports info distribution app that's currently publishing 4 different event types: baseball game data, basketball game data, football game data, and hockey game data. We'll look at those events in a second. And I also have 3 applications that are currently neither publishing nor subscribing to any of the events in the system. So this is a sports info data lake application, the sports scores alerts application, and attendance info analytics application. So let's look at one of the event types. They're all very similar, actually, little differences, but all very similar. Let's look at the being produced by the sports info distribution app. So if we actually go into this event and look at the details, so this is the hockey game data. So this has hockey stats related events. So the new model extensions that we wanted to highlight with this demo are we've added the ability to have hierarchical dynamic topics addresses. So we no longer have a string-based topic address. It's now hierarchical, and it can be variable or literal, and even have enumerated type variables with specific value sets. In this case, I could show several different leagues. I can show team data, that's a straight variable. City data, so to choose from cities, so I can filter on which city I want the data, the sports data from, and just define that. And these enumerations we'll use in a topic subscription builder later on to make it super easy. And then the types of hockey data that we have. So we have, hits, scores, hits, shots, penalty minutes, time played, time of possession, block shots, of course, fights, and final score data. So, and then we also have here the topic domain, which is basically the root of the topic structure, which is sports data in this application domain. And then this is game data, specifically, in-game data. So that is also a literal. And we'll go into how we would produce or create these topic addresses in a minute. So if I leave here, I can actually go in and try to actually consume some of these addresses that are being published by this application. So in the sports info data lake, for instance, if I drill into this one and edit this application, I can see this is a sports info data lake for subsequent analytics and historical recording and trending data. So for this, I probably want a lot of data. So we added this new concept called client delivery endpoint. So a client delivery endpoint, we'll create one, basically for Solace represents an event queue, a durable topic endpoint, or just a client connection with subscriptions for direct messaging. So event queue and topic endpoint would be for guaranteed messaging, and a direct client endpoint would be for direct messaging. So we can now model client delivery endpoints in more detail than we could in the past. So let's give this a name. So we want to create a queue that we'll call it all in-game data stats queue. So we're going to collect all the in-game stats data. So for this, and then we have a new concept as well, not only being able to model client delivery endpoints, but now we have a new concept called logical event mesh. This essentially maps to the event mesh in the runtime. So in the case, this could be a set of meshed VPNs, either DMR or MNR meshed, in the case of Solace brokers, or as small as a single VPN or a Solace cloud service, for instance, or it could be a Kafka cluster as well. So there's several event meshes you could create depending on where the published topics are. The topics that we looked at the data distribution app are actually publishing to this particular event mesh in the runtime. Therefore, we're going to have to put a queue on in that physical event mesh in order to attract the topics with subscriptions. So I can look at the details of this logical event mesh, and this is the main international logical event mesh for all my sports data event flows. And this is basically a Solace type mesh, and therefore it has a / delimiter for the topic addresses. So that's the actual event mesh that I wanted. If I needed a new one or wanted to model a new one, I could add a new one here as well. Now we could also add a client username. At this point, this is not used. However, it is discovered with runtime discovery of Solace brokers, which I'll show you in a separate demo. However, we can fill it in anyway, and it'll be used in the future, of course, for config management when we get to that. So if I add a subscription to this, there's two ways to add subscriptions to a queue, for instance. You could do it by events, by selecting specific events that are actually being published to this specific logical event mesh, or I can do it manually. So let's do it manually this time. So if I just, this subscription builder uses all of our wildcards and dynamically tells you. So if I just do a greater than sign, I can see I would subscribe to all of the events that are being published to that logical event mesh, and it will identify them immediately right here. We actually do these relations in real time in the background, so we know what we're attracting. So obviously that may be a little bit too broad of subscriptions, so let's just do sports data / greater than. Greater than. Okay, so as it's an analytics app, it wants our data lake. It wants to get all of the data. So let's grab all of the data, all the sports data. I can add this subscription, and here I can see, if I click on the subscription, I can see here with these lines which of the event types are being attracted. So all of these 4 event types are being attracted to this queue. If I create it, and now we can see this new subscription on this queue. It's an event queue. It's all in-game data queue. And so if I save that, now automatically the designer graph view will update and map all these associations. So this is dynamic mapping of these associations. All just implication by attracting them with subscriptions, the way a broker actually works. So next, say I wanted only a subset of that data. Like I have a sports scores alerts app. I have one of these for NHL alerts. I get it basically buzzes every time I get the Sens Ottawa Senators score. So let's kind of emulate that type of an application. So if I edit this application. And again, this is an application for alerts users of sports scores. Well, I want to sports scores alerts, and I will actually call, let's create a client delivery endpoint for Ottawa hockey scores. I only want Ottawa hockey scores. So, and I can, again, add a username just if I know it, add a subscription here. And this time, instead of manually adding a subscription, I'll do it by selecting particular events and then filtering down those events with a subscription builder. So if I click by events and click on all of the subscriptions being published to that logical event mesh, I get all 4 of these events to choose from. In this case, I want hockey data because I'm a Sens fan. So I'm going to click on choose the hockey data, and then I have this subscription builder that pops up. It's set the specific subscriptions that I'm interested in. So we have the literals here. We have hockey data. Well, I like NHL hockey, but I'm also interested in OHL hockey, the Ontario Hockey League, because I listen to junior scores too. The 67s also play here, so it's for junior hockey. So we'll do any hockey, any league, and then the city. Okay, I want Ottawa, so I'm just going to be interested in Ottawa scores, and the data type I'm only interested in scores in this case because I just want an alert when a score happens. I will add the subscription, and you can see it's that easy to create a subscription on that particular queue. So we have sports data, game data, hockey. Now this doesn't have to be a queue, of course. If I save these, you can see that this is the subscription that will be saved. Add that to the queue. And again, I don't really need a queue because this is just an alert. If I don't get it, I don't get it. I'll wait for the next one. So we'll make this one a direct client endpoint instead of an actual event queue. Now if I click create, you can see that I have this new direct client endpoint type client delivery endpoint. So with this subscription, which will essentially attract all events that are sent out with Ottawa hockey scores. If I save this, we can see here automatically now the hockey game data event is being mapped to the sports scores alerts app, and we'll only get the Sens data because of the way I filtered the subscriptions. Now I have a fourth application here, the attendance info analytics. Now I don't have an attendance event yet, so I'll create one to show you how we create an event with the new topic hierarchical topic structure with the dynamic dynamic variables in the different levels that can be replaced at runtime with literals and then be attracted, of course, with wildcards or specific information in the subscription. So if I edit this attendance info analytics app, you'll see here I already created a client delivery endpoint. It is actually a queue because we don't want to miss any of this data because this data is for analytics post real time. So we're just basically sending all of this attendance data into this analytics server, database, or application. Now, this subscription that I already created is sports data attendance, and then everything I want it for every league, every sport, every team, and every city. So I just put the wildcard here for the subscription. So I wanted to show you what it would be like if you already had a subscription and you create a new event that would be attracted by that subscription. So I didn't make any changes, so I'm just going to leave and discard changes here. And I'll go into the sports info distribution app, edit that guy. And here I am going to see that it is only publishing these 4 events, the game data. But we don't want game data this time. We want to publish a new one. So we're going to manage events. Well, we don't have an event here to publish that is attendance, so we're going to create one, add a new event. We'll call this event attendance. We'll allow it to be actually shared across application domains. Why not? We're going to publish this event to this logical event mesh. And again, we can verify it's the right one. It's the International Logical Event Mesh for all my sports data. That's the one. There could be multiple that are or are not connected. And then we want to set the topic address. In this case, it's still sports data, but it's not game data. So I need to create a new literal at this level. And of course, we'll probably call that intuitively attendance. Okay, and this is a literal topic level. I could also choose a variable and define an enum, but we'll do a literal, and I'll create that. And so now we want to actually define the topic address in more detail, because we want the resulting applications, not just the analytics app, to be able to filter that attendance data based on their interest. So some people potentially would just want Toronto data or New York attendance data. So let's create a subsequent level here for hockey data. We'll actually create a variable in this case. We'll call it sport. The sport variable, and we'll just name that sport. And we don't need to give it a description, but let's use an enumerated set of lists. So we already created an enumerated set of lists previously. Here's the sport types. So this list, I could actually edit this list, and I could add other sports to this list. For instance, like soccer, and then update. And then so I have an enumerated list. I can create that level, and then here I create the next level, which in this topic structure that my architect provided guidance for. The next step is the league. So we have LEAGUE. If I could type. This is also a variable, and this is specifically an enum, and we already had an enum called leagues, so we can reuse these because these are globally saved, these enums, like days of the week, for instance. You could do this, months of the year. So here's all the leagues I have, and that the data is available for. So if I create this level, and then the next level would be team. And there's so many team names that I'm not even going to give it an enumerated list. I'm just going to give it a variable, and it's going to be an unconstrained variable in this case. So we'll just call it team, and the next one would be city. And this is just following the topic structure that's defined by the enterprise architect that I would be working with. And we'll call this city, and this is again a variable, and there is a city enumeration with a set of values. We'll create that city level, and there's the event essentially. So it's attendance for whichever sport, these 5 now, whatever league you would potentially want. Type in your team name. And then you could actually, for city, all these different cities. Of course, that's not all the cities, but you get the idea. If I click on save, and then I save this new event that I just created, the attendance event, I could see, this just pops up. Automatic consuming applications. So some applications will start consuming this event automatically through subscriptions. So this here gives you, again, we're using this automated dynamic relationship mapping. We call it internally stitching. We're actually writing the algorithm that our actual brokers do when they're routing the events through the brokers to the appropriate clients or queues, and then to the clients. So it actually runs a similar algorithm to get all of these relationships. So in this case, the attendance info analytics, attendance data queue, that seems right. Yes, and that's the subscription I added. But sports info data lake, all in-game stats queue, that seems wrong because this is not in-game data. This is attendance data. It's more about the building or the event. So, and here's the culprit. Here's the offending subscription. It's a little too broad. Sports data. And it's picking up not just game data, it's picking up attendance data now because we subsequently added this new attendance event. So a couple options. I can go back and change the topic address structure, but that's the agreed structure by my architect, for instance, so I wouldn't do that. So I would just go ahead and go into this all in-game data stats queue and refine this subscription to be just to be more discerning in terms of what it will attract. So I want the end game data, and maybe I create a new queue to attract all of the attendance data, because it is a data lake type application. So this gives you downstream applications. We'll have a link here so we can go directly there, but I'll show you this in the graph and navigate there this way anyway. So continue to save. So I'm going to continue and finish creating that event. Okay, so here's my new attendance event. I want my sports info distribution app to publish it, so I can just drag it and drop it into the publish. Now you can see it's published. It was new, now it's published. If I save this, oh, there's my new attendance event, and it's being attracted indeed by the attendance info analytics app, but it's also going into the data lake, and as we just found out, it's going to the wrong queue. So in order to resolve this situation, but also see the implications of this before, so we're just going to edit this application. We're going to go into the client delivery endpoint. We're going to see, yep, that is way too broad a subscription. If I edit this guy, I will go in, see the subscription. It's attracting all of this event, the in-game data, as well as the attendance data. So let me just remove that and refine it. So I'll manually do it. Sports data, and there are all the options. I don't want the attendance data, so I could do game data, and then a greater than, and then now I'm just getting the game data. So there's no more attendance data. Added the subscription. I can confirm, yeah, indeed, it's attracting these particular events before I save this to the application. Now it's saved. I have a more refined data. At this point, I still want to get the attendance data, so I could create another client delivery endpoint, attendance data queue. It is indeed a queue, because we don't want to lose any of it, of those data events. I will manually create this. If I do data sports underscore data attendance, and I could just even use my wildcard here since I don't feel like spelling it out. It's probably not good practice because I might have another level that starts with A, but again, it attracts the associated event by that subscription that I wanted, at least at this point. And there it is here, identifying that it's pulling in this event type. And I have it here, and you can see both of the subscriptions for the associated queues. And I'll save this to application. Client delivery. So I have a queue name that I used before. So let me just edit that. I will call it attendance data lake queue. And then I will save it. And now it's still attracting the attendance data, but it's a data lake, and it was supposed to, but it's doing it so through the right queue. So this concludes the demo of how the new Event Portal hierarchical dynamic topic addresses and subscriptions with wildcards functionality can be used to model your event-driven architecture designs in detail. We covered a few of the key benefits of doing this EDA modeling in advance of deploying applications in the runtime, including the tool's ability to determine and immediately flag the downstream impacts when you make changes to your events or subscriptions. These particular data model extensions will be leveraged further in future releases to deliver other valuable capabilities like topic structure governance, configuration management of the event brokers in the runtime, and runtime audits. It's a powerful tool to help you design, manage, and govern your enterprise's PubSub message exchange patterns that are the key to event-driven architectures. Thanks.